Nope.
More specific you wanted to go, you think?
It's 12 o'clock
Your Thursday
afternoon. Welcome in. It is the halftime show. Again, we're broadcasting live here out at Pro Swing in Forest Acres, 4708 Forest Drive, part of the first annual Pro Swing Golf Classic. Crew out here. Pressing around here this morning. Been out here with Jack, Wes, and Chris going up until noon, and I think Terry's going to show up. You know, he's consistently late in studio, so I guess Tom Brady being consistently late out of studio as well, keeping up with his usual trend there. So we'll get Terry in here in a couple of minutes, and obviously we'll talk plenty about what's going on here at Pro Swing as we are hanging out here for the first annual Pro Swing Golf Classic. The food here smells amazing. Gonna try and get some of that here in the next break. Watching everybody take their swings and stuff, and hopefully slowly improve your golf game, because that is something that you can do here at Pro Swing. Instead of spending a ton of money to go out on the course and sweat to death or freeze to death or get covered in rain, you can come in here in a nice climate-controlled environment and golf wherever you want.
They have 260 courses.
So something to appease whatever your interest is when it comes to golf courses around the world. Driving range, putting, there's things like that. And when you do ultimately decide to get back onto the actual golf course, then you'll be ready to go. And certainly appreciate everybody here at Pro Swing and Integrated Media for having us out once again today and tomorrow as well. So if you didn't catch us today, you can come out here tomorrow. We'll be out here doing the same thing, watching the Pro Swing Golf Classic go on to day number 2, and this runs through Saturday as well. So they'll be out here from 8 until 8 on Saturday, wrapping up day number 3 of that tournament. Of course, coming up this weekend as well, you have Gamecock men's basketball looking for another win, or looking for a win, in conference play, as they have yet to do that so far. The calendar officially turns over to February on Saturday, as the Gamecocks look to make February better than January was by just winning some kind of game. And unfortunately for them, they are welcoming in number 13, Texas A&M. And we'll get into the specifics of that game a little bit tomorrow, previewing it. By the way, Coach Pear is going to be speaking tonight on Carolina Calls at 6 o'clock right here on the game. I'm sure he'll share his thoughts on that A&M game, as well as just the frustration of what this month of conference play has been so far. And I want to get into a specific angle here on kind of the importance of this upcoming offseason as it relates to Coach Paris. And Dave, if you can, sorry to call this on the fly, but if we could go to yesterday's cut list and go to the cuts from Jeremiah Donati when he was on with Jay and Elijah on the post-game show on Tuesday. This will be cut number 6. This is Donati talking about the men's basketball program in general, conversations with Coach Paris and what his job is this upcoming offseason and going forward to make sure that this program is in a position to be on par with the tops in the SEC. Here is what Jeremiah Donati had to say at the end of the day.
There are no easy wins. I mean, every single game, and we're seeing that this year in the SEC, is just a dogfight. And it's 2 seasons for the men's women's program. We were talking there about, the Clemson game, and just, seemingly things were going in a great direction, had some injuries, and we just have not had any luck since then. But I'll tell you, I think Lamont can really coach, and I think that his brand of basketball, even with some of the injuries, we've seen us, really give some of the best teams in the country everything they can handle, and probably should have won those games. And so that's encouraging if you're a Gamecock fan that I feel like we do have a coach who can coach. Do we have a talent gap? I mean, that's something that he and I really have to talk about. I mean, I think we've got some good players. I think we clearly probably didn't have the depth that we need to compete in and night out. And that's a little evident that we're seeing that in real time. So, it's not, the question came up. It's not a matter of, if Lamont's coming back, it's how can we better support him? And so when the season's over, I actually have a meeting with him next week to start that conversation about what NIL looks like in the fall, in the spring, and then into revenue sharing. So, because it's not just about paying players and finding more money to pay players. Yes, that's part of it, but what are we doing as a program to help continue to build that? So it's an ongoing evaluation. It's probably not one or two things I can tell you right now that I can tell you, but yeah, we need some more depth. I can tell you that's probably one thing that we'll be looking at and making sure that the roster's strong, because I don't anticipate a big drop off the league next year. So but we've got some key pieces that we think we can bring back, and so if you can do that and continue to build this and bring in some new guys, I think we will like what we see. But
again, that's Jeremiah Donati talking on the post-game show the other day with, Jay and Elijah. And, he said all the right things there. Again, Lamont Paris, he says the right guy for the job and all those kind of things. I think it speaks to where college sports are in general right now, that, this season isn't even close to over. And you're already having conversations starting next week about what the NIL stuff's going to look like in the offseason when it comes to acquiring talent and stuff like that, because you can never be, you certainly don't want to be late on any of those kind of things, and especially what's going to be a very critical offseason for Coach Paris. But I think about it from this angle, because it's important to remember that Jeremiah Donati did not hire Lamont Paris. Ray Tanner did a couple years ago. Again, Jeremiah Donati is inheriting him as the basketball coach, and he was inheriting him as the basketball coach coming off of one of the best seasons we've had in recent memory, making the tournament and all that stuff, being in contention for the SEC regular season title, at the end of the regular season, and that's great. Obviously, this season's gotten off to a pretty rough start, to say the least, and now you're under 500 and just scratching the ball, trying to find a way to win, win at least one conference game. But it's important to remember that, again, Donati did not hire, Lamont Paris. So I think we've gotten used to, because Ray Tanner's been at the helm of the athletic group for so long, we've gotten used to coaches having a relatively long leash when it comes to, waiting for them to hit their stride, have success in those kind of things. We don't know if that's going to be the case with Donati. You can look at his track record at TCU, but when you go to a different place, your perception, your expectations do end up changing. So when I think about Lamont Paris having a bad year right now, hopefully that's going to get better next year. But if it doesn't, if Carolina is again under 500 and failing in conference play, who's to say that Donati wouldn't try and be proactive and make something happen? Again, we're not trying to pick up Florida heroes here and get too far ahead, but it's something to remember as we go into this very critical offseason with Lamont Paris, that, again, Donati's not the one that hired him. He has no allegiance and loyalty to Lamont Paris. He is inheriting him as a head coach. So I think that puts even more pressure on Lamont Paris for what happens in the back half of this conference slate, going into the offseason, trying to find the transfer portal, and trying to turn around year number 4. Because right now this is essentially a lost season. I mean, you might be able to upset a team or two here and there, and you cross your fingers and hope you're in the tournament, but you're not really going to get a whole lot out of the season in these final 10 games, more likely than not. So it is time to really start looking ahead to next year and trying to be better. Likely story.
I'm sitting here watching our crew from the game. Sales crew. They suck.
Josh got it within 2 feet. He was proud of that. Now, he was shooting at over 16 through 6 holes on one of the simulators down there earlier.
Really worried about any of our guys winning this tournament.
What's the is it the web.com where you can enter it as an amateur and try and get yourself on the PGA Tour? I don't think I have to worry about any of these guys ditching us to join the web tour or anything like that.
Anyway, going back to what you're saying about basically, it doesn't take a genius to listen to Donati's like, okay, we got to sit down. Lamont can coach. He's coming back. There's nothing going on with any of that. No voodoo. We got to sit down and say, okay, basically, what happened? What happened? Was it depth? Was it we just missed our evaluation coming through the portal? Is it that some guys you thought were going to be better work? What you thought? Why did this go the way it did? And obviously Lamont's conversation is different than the one that Donati have with Shane or have with Dawn or have with Paul Maneri. Look, Shane, the timing was right?
Yeah.
Donati comes in, Shane's come off a 9-win year. They were already working on a contract extension with Shane. Donati sat down and had conversations with Shane. And obviously Dawn's Dawn. And Maneri's just coming in and he's got tons of skins in the game, right? So then you come down to Lamont Paris. And Lamont's coming off the greatest rebound years in recent history in college basketball for a program.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you go from wow, what a rebound year to wow, what just happened.
Yep.
You just want to find out from Lamont's perspective of Donati, okay, what went wrong? Let's talk about, everything. Player-wise, you the coach, your coaching staff. What went wrong here? And that's the next step, right? We're going through this season. Unless we see a massive reversal, this is where it's going.
Yeah. Like I said, might play good at home. And maybe you upset A&M on Saturday night, and that's maybe they storm the court for all we know. But
A&M,
yeah,
South Carolina fans.
I don't think A&M would storm the court. I think
whatever
South Carolina fans go for that game might storm the
How
court.
funny would that be?
That'd be weird.
But if you pull off an upset or two, that's great. But again, you're not going to play your way into the tournament outside of just going undefeated from here on out. Technically, yes, you could run the table in the SEC tournament in Nashville. That's likely not going to happen. So again, you hate to say it, but you're punting on this year pretty much after a month into conference play and starting to think ahead to next year, which goes back to, get Cam Scott out there. I know he's not performing level the most thought he was going to, but get him the experience. Let him learn. Let him get developed over these last 10 games and put him a step ahead for next year if you think he's going to be one of your main guys. Like, this is where you start positioning yourself to start saying, okay, how can we improve next year with talent that we have here, and start thinking about what kind of talent you're going to need in that portal.
And we're gonna get into the Cam Scott thing and just some of the Zach Davis thing, the Cam Scott thing, Conyers. It's time to have these conversations about where this goes moving forward. Right?
Yeah.
And you brought the point, Donati didn't hire these two. Donati obviously focusing on the issue right now, which is the men's basketball team. This year, Donati did not give Lamont the contract extension got last year.
Yep.
Now, if you look at TCU, did not hire Jamie Dixon. Although Jamie Dixon's an alum of TCU. Jamie Dixon, quote unquote, came back home.
Yep.
Jamie Dixon's a good coach. Is he a level one guy? No, because he can't win the tournament. But Jamie Dixon is a good coach. Every year, you're going to win 20 games with Jamie Dixon. You're going to have a big win or two in February with Jamie Dixon, maybe in January. And then, once Jamie does get in the NCAA tournament, he'll get beat early. Games.
Yeah.
But Jamie Dixon's not going anywhere. So even though you didn't inherit Jamie Dixon, that's a whole different situation. Did hire Dykes. And Sonny shocked the world. They got to the college football playoff final, which buys you about 3 years of goodwill, right?
It's coming to the end.
Now this year they did bounce back. They have the best they had since then. They're nowhere near close to the team they were in Dykes' first year for the last few seasons.
Right.
So it would have been interesting to see how that would have played out with Donati regarding Dykes.
Yep.
But we just don't know enough about Donati's patience level, lack of patience, where he would go in that situation. I think Lamont, if year ends up this year, there's an issue.
Yes.
There's an issue.
And again, we know Tanner had a long leash on guys that he hired, gave him opportunities, but Donati's different, and we don't know how he's going to feel about those kind of things. So yeah, if you're putting together back-to-back bad seasons, the pressure and the heat could turn up to 10 real quick.
Look, put it this way: the new world athletic directors, they don't seem like they're as patient as the old school athletic.
No, you have, especially with the resources that you have at a place like this, you should be able to make things happen fast.
All right, we'll come back talking more about Lamont Paris, obviously, and the men's basketball team. We'll shift, though. Dawn Staley on Carolina Calls last night. Dawn hanging out with Brad Muller, you heard right here in the game in Columbia and in Myrtle Beach. We'll hear some thoughts from Dawn Staley about this year's basketball team. That's next. We're live at Pro Swing. This is really cool. We'll talk more about that as well right here on the afternoon show. Tyler, here, Genius here. Josh is here working a sweat up for some reason. I don't understand it. We're here till 3 on the game.
Move it over here.
What's
So,
up there? What's up,
if you-
Dreamy?
If you can move that little stand out of the
20
way,
over?
so move this thing out of the way with the laptop on it.
Hole 7, Pebble Beach. Until I got hole in 1. I got within 2 feet.
Well,
We got a few minutes. Turn it, twist it,
Oh, it's a par 3.
Well, still on your tee
Turn
shot.
it
What was it? How
right-
was it? 200 and something? Two
right
what was
there.
it?
That's perfect. That's good.
107, is that it?
That's out. Unless you want to, if you got time. That's the best option as far as
What do we
getting us
see?
to
You
a
ready to
finish.
move over more? Or am I good?
Yeah,
Am I good where I'm at?
yeah. I can bring it in
Can
a
you
little
give me
bit
some
more.
help with what you're doing here? What do you need from me? Oh, yeah, that's right. First of all, we move this cloth out of the way so it doesn't get knocked over. Come on, base. Y'all get top.
You get the base.
Oh, I get the base?
And I got
How would they go? Stay pretty busy.
Which way you wanna go? Wanna go that way?
Wait a minute. Am I going from the camera?
It doesn't matter. Yeah. Yeah. Careful. There you go.
Oh, that was smooth.
I got to take
You got it?
Thank you.
No problem.
Not yet. Haven't had time. Can you pull that power strip out from around
Yeah.
too?
But can I tilt it up some? Because now NKT is not in there.
Yeah. You need to. She's put on that table.
So what I have to do is, you get behind.
Uh huh.
Do I pull it up?
Well, yeah. I mean, can't go much further. You still gotta have a walkway. That's good.
Is the game over on it?
The game. I don't think we're gonna be able to get all of them in there. To be honest with you. Yeah. Try and tilt it up some. Yeah. It's just you're getting high in headroom now. Yeah. I don't think we're gonna be able to get the game in. That's the best we can do.
How you doing? You good?
Yeah.
There you go, G. Maybe not. So we're good there. Oh, you got time.
You're good.
65 minutes.
I'm just gonna take it light on the previous time.
Yeah.
Not like the last time. I was killing those things last time. Hey, Dave. All right, on the cut list, sir. I'm going to go to. Let's go with.
Yeah. It's good.
Let's do cut 1. Let's do cut 1 to start with, and I might go to cut 9.
Yeah. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. We're going to cut 1 and cut 9 on Staley.
Come down this
No,
way,
coming
son.
back over.
Yeah. Yep.
We know who's strong. Steve Don Staley and his women's basketball team. One loss all year. early to UCLA, who is still undefeated, by the way. Dawn was on Carolina Calls last night, hanging out with our buddy Brad Muller. You heard it right here on the Game of Columbia, and also our affiliate Myrtle Beach for read the game. All right, so Dawn talked about a bunch of different stuff in the hour. We'll start off with this one first. I'll go cut one, Dave. Talking about the team's consistency through this winning streak. North Carolina went through this gauntlet of ranked teams and went unbeaten. Here's Dawn talking about the consistency through this winning streak.
We're consistently playing defense. I think we're playing connected. We are just linked up in a special way. Like Raven's playing great. He's pressuring the ball. Reed is playing extraordinarily well, fighting over screens. Piles keeping people in front of her. You got Fagan, who is really, I think, is quarterbacking because she sees all of it that's in front of her. And then Chloe. Everybody that comes in the game really takes defense pretty seriously. So we've been throughout this stretch. We've upped the ante when it comes to defense, and super proud of our team. Where can we get better? we can get better with when we gain a lead to take better shots, because bad shots lead to people just taking advantage of it. It doesn't allow our defense. It's almost like starting the break. It's almost like a turnover when you take a bad shot. It jump starts our opponent's offensive game, and if you get one basket to go in, it seems to get contagious. And you saw us, almost gave our entire lead back in the fourth quarter. So we got to do better. All that was from taking bad shots.
There's a Dawn talking about the good, which has been the defense, and especially on the perimeter. They have been getting after folks. Sni Fagan has done a really nice job blocking shots, being an enforcer, paint, and things of that nature.
Sure.
But you see out on the perimeter from Hall and from Johnson. Again, they're not scoring 12 points. You don't want them. But they've fallen into this role of we're going to lock down the perimeter. They have a nickname for themselves, like seatbelt or buckle up or safety belt or whatever. Because they buckle up, they buckle in, right?
Yeah.
So they're taking pride in defense and in leadership and doing the little things. And obviously, Raven, running the offense from the point and getting other people involved. But they've sort of like embraced, Edwards and Folali and Johnson and Pow, you guys go get yours, score points, and you shut down the other team's guards. Defensively, we've seen those two lock down real hard, and Fagan has really stepped up being that defender in the paint that they need since Watkins has been hurt.
Sure, and look,
we know the team's going to predicate itself.
On defense, obviously, last year they stepped up in a lot of ways offensively, which is what they needed to do to be able to compete with the likes of Caitlin Clark and that Iowa team that beat the national championship. And again, the offense is solid this year, maybe not exactly the way that you want it to be as far as consistency sometimes. And again, talking about taking some of those bad shots like they took the other day, but when you have defense, you're always going to have a chance. And when Carolina's smothering opponents the way they've been doing it, especially through this run of playing ranked teams these past couple weeks, you're always going to put yourself in a position to win, which they've done.
Yeah, all right, we are hanging here at Pro Swing. We'll talk more about Dawn Staley, and we'll get some more from Dawn. We're at Pro Swing here on Forest Drive in Columbia. The Pro Swing 107.5 The Game Winter Classic is cooking.
The first annual Pro Swing.
No, the inaugural first annual.
You can't have the inaugural first annual. It's got to be one or the other. And they were debating this the other day.
There's been a lot of debate about this. Now, I'll be quite honest with you. If you want to debate it, have fun. To me, it's the first annual Pro Swing, the Game's Winter Golf Classic.
So next year become the second annual, or just become the Pro Swing Winter Golf Classic?
The Pro Swing.
We don't have
the
to.
First one.
Do you always feel like you have to attach the numbers to it?
The genies tell me how wrong I am. I have totally disgusted her with my whole riff on the name of
now important to remember, next year is not the second anniversary, it's the first anniversary of the Pro Swing Winter Golf Classic.
I don't know what in God's name you just said.
Because you're celebrating the anniversary of even happening.
It's the first anniversary.
So if this is my wrestling fandom here, they did the 25th anniversary of WrestleMania. but it wasn't WrestleMania 26 because it had not been 25 years since WrestleMania started. So when I think about these things, I always go back to that because I'm like, don't screw that up because it's not the 25th anniversary. It's the
25th time you've done this.
Look at Jeannie Sweeney's discuss on Jeannie's face. She's going to text me.
Jeannie's been putting out fires all morning.
Because Jeannie's not going to jump on camera and talk to us.
No.
I think
I mean,
it's
good. We have a
camera, so she could have
She's been the one messing with the thing too, along with you.
We've got we've moved it around.
It's all right. Besides the faces of the guys on this thing, I think it looks good.
Hasn't broke yet, so
Not yet.
we're doing all right.
So we are here hanging around. You can still get in on the tournament. It's $1,000 if you win.
Yeah.
I mean, $750 for second place, $500 for third place. It takes about 2 hours for a pair to go 9 holes.
You can get through it yourself in an hour, basically.
If you're solo, you pop in an hour. There's food from Bonefish. There's you want to drink a water, grab a soda, whatever. I was kicking root beer.
I got cherry Coke last time.
Well,
not always my go-to, but never mad when I get it.
I'm gonna tell you, cherry Coke. Every now and then I'll grab a 1 liter.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do a whole 2 liter. I'll grab a 1 liter every now and then. Cherry
Sure.
Coke is very underrated. It's
Hard to beat.
Cokey goodness.
That's right.
All right, so we're here, and you can still get in 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Still taking folks to come in and golf. So you just you can call. The number off the top of my head, I can't remember, so we're going to get there here in a minute. Also, you can just drop on in and sign up. Bring your clubs. And come on out to Pro Swing on Forest Drive. It's a 3-day event. Today, tomorrow, and also on Monday. So feel free to come on by and jump in. Again, you got nothing to lose, and you could win $1,000. Also, you can win Gamecock baseball season tickets as well. 803-528-1617, 803-528-1617 here at Pro Swing on Forest Drive. All right, so back to Dawn and the women's basketball team. I'm going to grab cut 9, Dave, so be ready. If you look at this gauntlet, they beat 5 straight ranked teams.
Yep.
Haven't lost since that UCLA game early in the year. And look, the SEC, we say this about the SEC a lot of times, very top heavy. This year there are some, it's better than it has been in recent years with the quality of teams in the SEC.
Yep.
LSU obviously is a high quality team. Tennessee is ranked. Texas has been a top 5 team. So you've got a better, depth of good squads in the SEC. And here's Dawn talking about in cut 9, Dave, just how tough the SEC is this year.
The toughest, the toughest, and you don't get a break because I do think Missouri just beat Mississippi State off of a last second shot. So, anybody can beat anybody in our league. So, fortunately for us, we defend night in and night out. We don't know if that ball is going to go in a hole, but we have a way of defending, and our players are experienced. They're experienced in this league. They've had success in this league. They know what it takes. But knowing what it takes isn't just enough. You really have to execute game plans on both sides of the basketball.
So, the SEC, you throw in Oklahoma, who's ranked, Alabama's ranked, and that's the 5-game win streak. And, South Carolina. When you watch those games, Tyler, it just felt like South Carolina was better. The LSU game was more of, that game started off, everybody was hitting everything early.
Sure.
Then the game kind of settled in to a semi kind of rock fight-ish type of game after a bit. But South Carolina was better than LSU, deeper, better than Texas. Now, maybe if that game was played in Austin, we're having a different conversation. I doubt it. I thought South Carolina was far better. Same thing with Alabama, Oklahoma. They've just been the better team.
If they're in a rock fight late in the third quarter or the beginning of the fourth quarter, then I'm concerned. But getting off to slow starts, we've seen them do that a million times this year. Having, a so-so first half, not surprising. The second half's when the depth really kicks in and they start running away from it and dominating teams. And again, that's just kind of been copy and paste with most of these games in conference play.
All right, so that's a little bit from Dawn. We'll get more Dawn Staley from Carolina calls last night here on the Halftime Shows. We're live at Pro Swing Forest Drive in Columbia. We'll come back just in case you missed what's going on in the world of sports. We'll get you updated. That is next here on the Halftime Show. Tyler Head, Terry Ford, Jeannie's here, Alan's here. Josh. We're just hanging out here at the Pro Swing Golf Classic all day long here on the game. sponsored by our buddies at the Gutterman. I want to get this right. I got the official text from Jeannie.
Okay.
Jeannie said, it is best to use the word inaugural
All right.
instead of first annual. Inaugural means it's the very first time the event is happening, while annual implies it's a recurring event.
Okay.
Since you can't guarantee it'll happen every year just yet, inaugural is correct. Terry, you dope.
That was in there?
Yeah, Terry, you dope.
Okay.
She calls me Terry, you dope all the time. I'm used to it.
That's probably what your name in her
So,
phone is.
Matter of fact, it is Terry, you dope. I'm
Yeah.
going to change my name on my
Well,
driver's license
actually,
to Terry, you dope.
it's probably something meaner than that we can't say on the radio.
Probably right. All right, so we will call it the inaugural from
Sure.
this moment
Okay.
on.
The inaugural
Because by the way,
Pro Swing
Jeannie could take both
golf
of us.
class. Yeah, she could.
Absolutely. It's not even a conversation.
Yeah.
She takes.
Well, she's our bodyguard when we're out of these things.
She's our muscle.
Yeah.
Jeannie's our muscle. All right, so a very, very sad story to start off, just in case you woke up. So last night around 9 p.m., an American Airlines jet collided with an Army helicopter near Reagan National Airport in D.C., and the plane crashed in the Potomac River.
Yep.
No one survived on either the helicopter or the American Airlines jet. And on that American Airlines jet was 6 members or associates from the Skating Club of Boston. They were coming back from training, and they were coming in for a landing, and the helicopter went into their path. And, again, you never know until you know. And
Sure.
You don't want to sit here. I'm no aviation expert. Just reading what I'm reading, that, and part of this, part of the delegation from Boston, a couple of young teenage skaters, and 2 skaters who won the pairs title of the 1994 championships as well were on the plane. Basically, the midair crash, like I said, happened around 9 p.m. No immediate word on the cause of the collision. Flight conditions were clear. Should have been a routine landing. The helicopter then flew into the path of the jet. According to the report, less than 30 seconds before the crash, an air traffic controller asked the helicopter if it had the arriving plane in sight. The air traffic controller made another radio call to the helicopter moments later saying, Pat 25 passed behind the CRJ. Seconds after that, the aircraft and the helicopter collided. And just a tragedy.
Yep.
There's obviously going to be some reason behind this. This is just routine. You land planes, and usually you don't have a helicopter coming into your path.
Sure.
What happened? All you know is you can find out what happened all day long, and you can make sure this doesn't happen again by putting in criteria, processes, whatever. But when it's all said and done, I mean, there's nothing you can do to fix the tragedy that's just happened. It's just a shame, man.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And this, broke last night, and unfortunately, I see people wanting to rush for their tinfoil hats right away. And again, the story of this is gonna unfold over time with investigations and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it's tragedy. A lot of lives lost, and 60 people I think on the airplane, and then a couple people in the helicopter as well. So just, again, really unfortunate. Again, like I said, a lot of the figure skating team, I think come back from Kansas or something like that. There were some couple of I think Olympic skaters from Russia on the plane as well.
Won the world
championship in '94. So yeah, just tragic all around.
And I know that, again, everybody, this is the world we live in. Let's jump up and down and start pointing fingers and blaming folks, and we'll find out what happened. But at the end of the day, it's just a tragedy that life is lost, no matter what happened and who's to blame. But all you can hope for is whatever happened to cause this. It's just we will never let this happen again.
Mm-hmm.
And here's how we're going to avoid this happening again.
Yep.
Also, this is a very important day for the ACC, because ESPN has agreed to pick up its option to continue broadcasting ACC sports through 2036. Why 2036, Tyler?
That is when that original deal that they signed in 2016 to get the ACC network, because, they jumped up and down and screamed that the SEC had a network, and they said, we want one of those, saying, okay, we're going to have to lock you in for the long term. And they said, okay, that's fine. And, since then, a lot's unfolded. But yes, that is a critical year for the ACC.
Because that grant of rights ends in 2036.
Yep.
So ESPN will continue on. This is critical for the stability of the conference, obviously. I wonder if Clemson and Florida State are bummed today. Because aren't they rooting for chaos and carnage?
Yeah, now there are incentives within this that could potentially net them more money, given the fact that they are bigger draws within the conference. But like we said, when the ACC implemented these postseason incentive things for this past year, whenever that went into effect, that would potentially help a team like Clemson for making the college football playoff that they would only see the benefit from, it still pales in comparison to the money that the teams in the SEC and the Big Ten are making, which again is what their biggest gripe is when it comes to being in the ACC.
And again, the numbers for a Florida State or a Clemson to leave right now because of the grant of rights that they all signed voluntarily, by the way, multiple times.
Yes.
Without any kind of guns held on them.
Yep.
Or having their families kidnapped.
Because, hey, at the time, it sounded great.
Mm-hmm.
And you just didn't think about the fact that other leagues would restructure their deals and be making tons more in the near future.
But the idea is you panicked because Maryland left the ACC.
Yeah.
And you saw maybe Florida State could leave. And really, so then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, we have to put together a grant of rights. Then it was this, let's do it for the long term so we make sure everybody's locked in and nobody can go. Well, when you make decisions out of panic, typically you regret those decisions.
Sure.
And instead of just doing a short-term deal so you could then renegotiate your TV contract, the ACC, and this is not Jim Phillips now.
No.
Everybody wants to blame Jimbo for everything. This was the schools that wanted this long-term deal.
Yep.
To get locked in with ESPN and an ACC network and all this other stuff that they were dying for. Well, this is what you get.
Yep.
And if Florida State, because Florida State's been the loudest, right? For Florida State to get out, they would have to cut a check in the neighborhood right now because of the grant of rights of $700 million.
You got that money lying around?
Sure. We work in radio. I can
Sure.
we can loan it to them.
Well, and that's why, they were looking into the Saudi Public Investment Fund last summer of, hey, think you guys could help us out here?
Yeah, the Saudis, any kind of private equity. You have no idea who you're jumping in the sack with, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a tricky road to walk down.
Those people, they don't get in business with you unless you're going to make them a lot of money.
And that started the conversation, kind of paused once the season took off, but private equity eventually making its way into college sports with this new era that we're entering into. And yeah, it's going to take something like that unless they can find a legal loophole, which again, with how ironclad that grant of rights seems to be, it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. It's either pay or stay.
It ain't happening. And then like we said, Florida State and Clemson have this idea that as soon as they would get out of the ACC, that they'd open up the front door of their nice houses, and the SEC and the Big Ten will be fighting in the driveway to see who gets them.
Yeah.
Not so fast, my friend, in the words of the great Lee Corso. Because the SEC and the Big Ten, they would walk past Clemson and Florida State in a second to go hug North Carolina.
Or Virginia, or some, again, untapped markets, because they already exist in Florida. They already exist in South Carolina. Again, I know people like to look at trophy cases and recent success and say, well, why wouldn't they want us? That ultimately does not matter at the end of the day.
Now, this is about going into untapped markets, because I always use a restaurant analogy. If I got a restaurant in one area, why do I want to put a second restaurant in the same area? I don't want to put a restaurant in an area where I don't have a restaurant.
Exactly.
But you know what? You're talking about one loss records. Florida State doesn't look too good right now.
I was going to say they can't exactly trumpet that in the court right now, because they went 2-10.
Remember, Florida State had back-to-back double-digit win seasons, and they got all cocky and got the old Seminole chest pumped out and everything. And
not
then
so
last
much now.
year, yeah, not so much. All right, so what's happening? In case you just woke up, for our buds at the Gutterman, Firehouse Sub Text the Hour is coming up next at 803-404-6100. We are just hanging out here at the inaugural.
Yes.
The inaugural Pro Swing 107.5 The Game Winter Golf Classic in Columbia here on Forest Drive at Pro Swing. Guys are going, and you can still get in. We still have it's a 3-day gig, so you still have time to get in. We're the folks at Pro Swing are taking register. What would you call it? Registrars.
Registrar is what you do at college.
That's true.
Registration.
Registrar. I was going to say the person.
Oh, well,
Are you a registrator?
Too much.
Yeah,
Too
I
much.
can't think like this right now.
We got to hit a
You
break.
can come register. Halftime show on the game.
Tyrod and Terry Ford again out at Pro Swing for the inaugural Pro Swing Winter Golf Classic. Out here today and tomorrow. Be here till 6 today, and same thing tomorrow, 6 a.m. to 6
Is it
p.m.
still inaugural tomorrow?
Well, the whole event encapsulates 3 days. So yes, I believe
Just checking.
we'll still say the same thing.
I'll
tomorrow.
ask Jeannie because
Yeah, okay.
she's our expert,
Jeannie's got to tell us the proper way to phrase it.
and we don't want to make her mad anymore.
We don't want to sound dumb.
And we've even got our Grand Poobah out here playing.
I know she came prepared.
Yeah, hey, she's got her tennis shoes on. She ain't
Yeah,
playing. She
I
ain't
was,
messing around.
I was worried about trying heels and swinging a golf
Oh,
club.
no,
she's good.
She's got her gear. She's ready to roll.
That's right.
So we'll see what if she's like really playing or just out there just knocking some balls around.
It looks like she's doing better than Josh.
You know, she outdrove Josh.
Yeah, that's not saying much.
No,
but
it's not. No, not really. Josh came over. I was in like, what do you say, 2 feet
2 feet within
of a
2
hole
feet.
in one? It's 107 yards out of the pin.
Yeah.
So it's not like he drove. He didn't drive it like John Daly in the
See,
old
when
days.
she hits the golf ball, it doesn't go into the trees.
That's interesting how that.
That's kind of
happens. Look,
that's
it's still
good.
on the green.
boom. Look at that.
Interesting. All right,
Hmm.
Firehouse Sub, text the hour 803-404-6100. What you got there, my man?
Nameless texter, going back to conversation about Coach Paris, says if you give a coach all the praise for winning, then he or she has to take the blame for losing as well.
No, I don't disagree with that. I think it's always like this, ready? Yeah, we're going to give the coach the praise for a big turnaround, but obviously, the coach doesn't play.
Yeah.
Players play. And the same thing, you give the coach his grief for being 0 for the SEC at this point, but also players play. But at the end of the day, it lands on the desk of the coach.
It does.
It just does.
Because it is the coach's responsibility to acquire the talent and get the talent to a point where they go out on the court and be successful.
Yeah, your job is to put them on the court and put them in the best position to win. And then to, as the season goes along, make the adjustments you need to make to your team as the season goes along.
Yep.
And so, yeah, we can't sit here and not say, Lamont's blameless here, or his players are this, his players are that, because at the end of the day, it comes back to you as the coach. Lamont's been talking about his frustrations, right? About, a lack of competitiveness, or they turn the ball over, or we work on this, that, or this in practice. Okay, so now you as the head coach, you got to take a step back and go, okay, what do I got to do different?
Mm-hmm.
I do it like this every year, but doing it like this ain't working.
Yeah.
Do I have to do it like that instead of like this?
Yeah. And again, we don't get to see the practices, but I can guarantee you they are doing all the same fundamental things you probably did as a 7-year-old playing rec league basketball, dribbling and passing and making sure you hang on to the ball and all these kind of things that, you probably don't want to have to do at this high of a level as much, but I guarantee you they're drilling it in their head so they can fix this problem. But as talked about yesterday, there's something about when the lights are on, when they turn the scoreboard on and start counting scores and the clock starts running down, they just can't perform.
Lamont said something in his riff post game with Derek and Casey, and he said, "I'm not going to dummy it down." Maybe you have to.
Every group learns differently.
Yes.
So what worked for last year's group may not work for this year's.
And again, this is not being disrespectful to their basketball IQ or anything, but like you just said, different teams pick up things in different ways, and maybe this team is not going to learn it the way last year's team did.
Yep.
Or maybe Lamont, one of your teams, back in the day, learned different. Every team is different, and I think you have to be fluid in how you approach it, because maybe you have to use Lamont's quote, dummy it down.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to do that for these guys to click in, and because you've got to find a way to get these guys to A, stop turning the ball over, and B, start taking, better, more consistent shots and put yourself in a position to score buckets. So yes, to the texter, yeah, part of this goes on Lamont. Absolutely. No one is going to sit here and say it's all when the team wins, it's all the coach, and when the team loses, it's all the players. No, that's not fair. And we've not done that here at all. So yeah, Lamont has to take a step back and go, well, maybe I've got to bring this thing down to a level that I've never had to bring it down before for any team. Then you got to.
Yeah. What do you got to lose at this point?
Right, because you can't just sit there and continue. What's that definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over again, and expect it to change.
Yeah, maybe it's now you have to take a step back and say, we do have to bring this down a couple of levels, because maybe that is where it'll click in with this team.
Maybe so.
And we'll talk more about, in the 2:00 hour, about, is it time to put a Cam Scott in and give him some more run? I feel like when a player of that ilk, who has this kind of reputation, does have offensive skills, when Cam Scott's not playing, it's usually one of a few different things. One, especially with Lamont values defense.
Uh-huh.
Is it defense? Is there something else going on why Cam Scott's not playing? We'll get into that in the 2 o'clock hour. We'll talk about Zach Davis. Zach Davis, I hate to say this, I'm not trying to be mean, takes too many shots.
It's a wild experience.
Yes, it is. It's a ride. It's an amusement park ride. So we'll get into that in 2 o'clock hour as well. But in the 1 o'clock hour, it's football, 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 sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. On the game, we're live at Pro Swing in Columbia on Forest Drive, our inaugural Pro Swing Golf Classic going on right now. Halftime show, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Ayer back in Mission Control, punching the buttons for us. We are live at Pro Swing, the inaugural Pro Swing 107.5 The Game Winter Golf Classic. Thank our folks here at Pro Swing, our Buds Integrated Media, all for making this happen. So we'll be here all day today and tomorrow. The tournament is today, tomorrow, and Saturday. You can still get in. Still chances for you to jump in here and play. If you're by yourself, take you about an hour. You and a bud come out. It would take you about 2 hours. You can still register. Very easy, very simple. You just come on in, or you can call Pro Swing at 803-528-1617. 3-day event. You can get in today, tomorrow, Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. here at Pro Swing again. 803-528-1617. All right, so we roll football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. TJ Sanders at the East-West Shrine game was talking to the media. Let's get that cut right, David. Here's what TJ Sanders said, what he's hearing about him as an NFL prospect.
Just hearing some teams, tell me that I'm, just a top, 30, 15 talent in this draft.
Okay.
Could be a starter in this league for a long time, could play as long as I want. Just hearing that belief and confidence that they're installing in me, just makes me believe in myself more and more.
I mean, yeah, so he's getting some talk about top 10, top 15. There's been some people that put TJ Sanders in the bottom of the first round in some mocks. Right now, I'm just looking at CBS, their mock drafts. Sanders is not in the first round in any of those right now. And this thing, look, there's 50 billion mock drafts. There's going to be, mock draft 19.0. But we're just saying right now as we look, the only Gamecock I see on the 4 mock drafts in front of me is Nick Eamon-Warry going 18th to the Seattle Seahawks. Again, I've said this before. I see TJ Sanders. My guess will be a second-round pick. He is the number 8th rated defensive tackle on Mel Kiper's big board. And I can see second round, no worse than third for TJ Sanders. We saw him pop against Georgia where he just took over the game in the first half 2 years ago. Dude played out of his mind. And that's the kind of ability Sanders has. He's got some really good grades through the last couple years, if you look at Pro Football Focus. And NFL teams really valued interior defensive linemen who can get after the quarterback. That is gold, and Sanders can do that. He's a really nice pass rusher from the interior, and that's going to help him get drafted, I think, in the second round. So that's kind of my thoughts on Sanders, and he can always up his draft stock in the silly season. The East-West Shrine game, though, it might be the most real thing in the silly season because you're actually playing against other upper-level college players. You are, the work during the week is a real thing. Scouts and teams really pay attention to what you do during the week in the drills and the practices. And then obviously the game pops. So you can help yourself if you have a good week at the East-West Shrine game. So that's TJ Sanders and what's going on with him. Just looking at Mel's big board of other players, Nick Eamon-Warry, still the second-rated safety by Mel on his draft board behind Malachi Starks at Georgia. Kyle Kennard is not in the top 10 for defensive ends / edge rushers. Even though I have seen, Kennard in the bottom of the first round in a couple of mocks. Off-ball linebackers, Demetrius Knight is now ranked 10th in off-ball linebackers. I'm telling you, Demetrius Knight will be drafted, in my opinion, by the end of the 4th round, Demetrius Knight's gone. That's just my feeling. I don't think he makes it past there. He might even go in the 3rd. We'll see. But 3rd, 4th round for Knight. I think 2nd round for Sanders against 2nd round Kennard. Eamon-Warry, bottom of the 1st round or 2nd round. But TJ Sanders, his conversation was kind of interesting with the media.
Yeah, and he mentioned, some teams apparently telling me it could be as high as the top 15 pick, which you're not going to find any mock drafts out there that say that. But again, it's all based on need. So if there's a team that has the 15th pick and they really like Sanders based on what they've seen on tape, what they see out, here at the Senior Bowl this week, and they might take him there. So again, he can go a lot higher than you expect, but he's gonna have a good rookie deal. We'll say that much.
Yeah, and if someone like Jack Campbell with the Detroit Lions a few years ago, projected by everybody to be a second-round pick, and the Lions took Campbell in the first round. Now, draft day, that's a reach.
Yeah.
Now, Campbell's turned out to be a good linebacker. He's been part of a very successful Detroit defense when they're all healthy. Now, could you have gotten Jack Campbell in the second round instead of the first? Absolutely. But it was a reach on draft day. Just because you make a reach on draft day, if that guy pans out, guess what? It's not anymore. Not a reach.
Yeah, you were right.
Same thing. Let's say somebody reaches and they think TJ Sanders, in the top 20. Let's say somebody goes in the top 20, to your point. Let's say there's a team that really likes him and decides they're going to pull the trigger on him middle of the first round or even between 15 and 20.
Mm-hmm.
Every draft expert's going to say that was a reach.
Yep.
And it is, if you just look at the draft in itself, that would be a reach.
Sure.
But if Sanders balls out and becomes a player that team hopes he would be when they drafted him, guess what? It's no longer a reach.
That reach moniker becomes a placeholder.
It becomes a savvy draft move.
Exactly. Yeah. And until you can go out there and prove it on the field, you're going to be questioned about it. But hey, go out there and end up having, like you said, guys telling them you're going to hang around this league for a long time based on the skills that you show us. Then in time, maybe it's later, maybe it's a year later, maybe it's a couple years later, say, okay, well, they were, whatever team it is, they were right for making that pick because see how it worked out.
And when you can rush the passer from the interior, you can stay around the NFL as long as you stay healthy and you're productive.
Did you see the video of him blowing up the LSU guard?
Yes.
Yesterday?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm telling you, Sanders has a lot of ability.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about a minute ago, that, he showed it in that Georgia game 2 years ago. In that first half, he took over the first half of the line of scrimmage against Georgia offensive linemen who are NFL caliber dudes.
I was going to say, if there's any team that you can turn some heads against, Georgia's one of them.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah, and so we'll see where it goes for TJ Sanders, Kyle Kennard, Demetrius Knight, Nicky Benwari, all those guys. We'll see where it goes for Torricelli Simpkins. I think he gets picked third day.
Yeah.
I think that's what I believe with Torricelli Simpkins.
He was the best offensive lineman. We never had to talk about him.
Exactly, because we never brought him up until we gave the Pro Football Focus grades. We said, wow,
yeah,
Torricelli Simpkins graded out pretty well.
This guy's consistently good. He's not giving up sacks and, those kind of things that you love out of an offensive lineman. So, yeah, the Gamecocks going to have a lot of guys getting their names called in the draft this year. It'll be interesting to see who comes off the board first, whether it is Eamon or TJ Sanders.
I feel like it'll be Eamon. I think Eamon Warry's really going to do well for himself in the silly season.
Mm-hmm.
I think Old Nick's going to go to Indianapolis in the combine, and he's going to tear up the underwear Olympics.
Yep.
I really do. With speed and strength and size, I believe Nick is going to he's going to have a nice combine. And Eamon Warry, I think he'll do fine in the interviews and things of that nature. So Nick's really going to help himself, I believe. But the guy that's going to go second is going to be Sanders. I think Sanders will be the number 2 Gamecock to go off the board, then probably Kennard, then Knight.
Yep.
That's the way I feel it'll roll itself out. And then Simpkins will go, I think, third day. With Rocket Sanders, could he go third day somewhere 5th, 6th, 7th round to somebody who likes his running style compared to their system of offense? But the injuries are a thing. They really are.
Well, I wouldn't say injury prone. He had one big significant injury in college that it took him a couple years to get back to that true form, which we finally saw him do here at South Carolina. So yeah, nobody's going to take him with a second or third round pick. So it'll be mid to later rounds probably. But again, if he can stay healthy, again, we've seen him at his best. He can be a very solid piece in somebody's backfield.
Look, if we've seen this with running backs today, if you land with the right team, and their system of run game matches your running style, you can play really well for them.
Sure.
And typically it just means you're most likely still not going to get a second contract, but you can get a contract with somebody else.
And he can catch the ball out of the backfield, which adds another dimension to what he does. So again, you can be a multifaceted type of guy in whatever offense you end up going to. And again, as long as you stay healthy, you can hang around.
I'll say this with Rocket Sanders, he became the second go-to guy for Lenore Sellers in the passing game.
Remember the middle part of the season, it was either him or Josh Simon that was the leading receiver in each game. And again, you had that catch and run that won the Missouri game.
Again, Rocket Sanders, it's not like he's got this incredible burst. He's not Derrick Henry running 22 miles an hour, but Rocket Sanders breaks tackles, falls forward, gets yards after contact, and catch the ball in the backfield. and can break you off some decent runs. He might not be a home run hitter,
Yeah.
but he can get you a 20, 30-yard run before the defensive crew catches up.
He's pretty fast. He's got a good build to him. He can break tackles. He can catch the ball in the backfield. Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, so I could see, but I'll say this too. Once you get to that 6th, 7th round, unless you just want to hear your name called because it means something to you, which I totally understand.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better off to be an undrafted rookie free agent than you can pick your team.
Have your choice. Yep.
And put yourself in the right position to succeed. And we've seen running back, Terrell Davis was a 6th-round pick. We've seen running backs who are undrafted free agents have really good careers.
Yep.
So Arian Foster was an undrafted free agent and went on for a few years before the injuries kicked in, was a really productive running back. So those things do happen. So where you end up as a running back on draft day, you still, sky's the limit, depending on where you land and where you go.
Absolutely.
So that's the latest there on the Gamecocks and what's happening regarding the NFL draft. We yap football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the Game. Cam Newton has been interesting on TV.
To say the least.
Thing,
yeah.
The wardrobe is a thing. And every now and then he says something where you go,
I told somebody this morning, he looks like an evil hot air balloon conductor.
What was that? The around the world and
around the world in 80 days. Yeah, that kind of thing.
He looks like the evil guy that would be flying a hot air balloon.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know where he gets his fits from, but I'm sure they cost more than we make in a year.
You think? That hat is more than my salary. Well, anyway, Cam had an interesting take because we're all sitting around going, well, Jerry Jones hired Brian Schottenheimer for a certain reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason was because we think Jerry's just the ultimate control freak, and Jerry wants another Muppet that he can move the strings and he can play Jim Henson.
Sure.
And I still think that's what it is. But Cam Newton has given Jerry way too much credit.
It's dangerous.
Cam Newton is saying this, that Jerry Jones hired Brian Schottenheimer so the Cowboys can tank. And if the Cowboys can tank and get the first overall pick, they could draft this guy named Arch Manning.
Okay.
Now, I know that a lot of these shows like First Take and whatever, they kind of, whether it's a producer or just the whole idea of the show is come with something.
Yeah.
Bring something
that's going to start a conversation.
Right.
So we can yell at each other back and forth across the
like
table.
We're angry.
Exactly.
And so I get what Cam Newton's trying to do here.
Yep.
He's trying to give you the, ooh, never thought of that hot take. Ooh, that's a deep thought hot take. And at the end of the day, maybe Cam Newton's right. I just don't think he is. I don't think Jerry Jones is that much of a deep thinker, to be honest with you. I believe that Jerry hired Brian Schottenheimer so he could basically be the head, so Jerry could be the head coach.
Yeah.
But let's go down the rabbit hole real quick that Cam's giving Jerry too much credit. But let's just say, for example, oh my God, Cam's right.
Okay.
Just for fun. So you've got Micah Parsons on this team. You got Dak Prescott on this team. You got CeeDee Lamb on this team. You got a couple other pieces that are pretty good. So basically, you're going to surround these pretty good pieces with a lot of bleh, and you're going to put a head coach in there that has no business being the head coach.
You're going to waste a year.
So you can tank.
Yeah.
And then get Arch Manning. Now, again, I get it. Arch Manning playing at the University of Texas, his last name, Manning.
Bring a lot of butts to the seats.
And I really feel like Arch, look, I've bought in, watching Arch Manning this past season and the bits that he played, Arch Manning's got game.
Sure.
Matter of fact, I'll say this. If Arch Manning was the veteran quarterback operating the Texas offense, Longhorns might have won themselves a national championship. Just saying.
Maybe.
I just think Arch Manning has got the goods. So if Arch Manning plays next year the way we think Arch Manning could play, yes, Arch Manning will leave, go into the NFL draft. There's a really good chance Arch Manning is the first pick overall.
Yep.
But we just went through all these. There's a lot of hoops to jump to get to Arch Manning being the first pick overall.
Sure.
First of all, he's never started a full season. 2, we never know what he could be if he is starting a full season. 3, is he going to develop into that player that everybody thinks he's going to be? So if you're Jerry Jones, you hire Brian Schottenheimer to tank.
I wouldn't.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, isn't it?
That's a lot of ifs.
Yeah, that's a lot of ifs. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We're live here at Pro Swing Golf, the inaugural Pro Swing Golf Winter Golf Classic. We're getting it cooking right here on the Game. Tyler Hedge here, Terry Ford, Genius here. Our fearless leader has just left the premises. You know what's funny is when you have the person in radio, we have market managers.
Yeah.
They run the,
Yep.
because most radio groups now are clusters in markets, and you're running multiple stations, and there's one person who runs the whole shebang.
Right.
And Tammy was here. And the funniest part was we had a few of our sales folks hanging out in here too.
Yep.
And it's funny, as soon as the market manager shows up, some of the sales folks leave.
As if maybe they weren't supposed to be here.
Oops. Oh, bleep. It's my boss.
Extended lunch break.
Except Dreamy Josh.
Well, this is Josh's thing, though. He's
It's
supposed to be
Josh's
here.
clients, so Josh has to be here. See, I noticed this, though.
Josh always managed to get the funnest client. So here, Firehouse Subs, all those kind of things. He just, comes and hangs out.
If it involves like golf or food, for some reason, Josh is so available for us.
I know, it's weird, right?
I'm not leaving.
Well, everybody else did.
And Josh just says, it's my client. I've got to stay. And since I'm here, I might as well play golf.
Yeah.
So anyway, we were hanging here at Pro Swing. It's the inaugural Pro Swing 107.5 The Game Winter Golf Classic. Again, it's going on today, tomorrow, and Saturday. You can still get in. Just grab your clubs. It'll take you about an hour to play by yourself. If you're going to play with a bud, it's going to be 2 hours. 803-528-1617. Grand prize, $1,000. Second place, $750. Third place, $500. Also, if you register to play, you can win Gamecock baseball season tickets before it's all said and done. Maybe we can get a score update from
I
before it's all said and done. See who's got a low score. We know it's not Yellman, that's for sure.
No,
it's not Josh.
Josh is definitely in last place,
Yeah.
whatever that is. He agrees. He's not shying away
I
from
wonder
it.
I wonder what his handicap is here. 30, 40?
What's the worst
Do
one
they
he
go
could
that
have?
high?
I told you he was plus 18 through 6 earlier today, so he wasn't off to a hot start.
No, it wasn't going well. We're yapping football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. And we talked about Arch Manning a few minutes ago.
Yep.
Arch Manning has signed himself an NIL deal with Red Bull, a guy who has not started but a handful of games. Now, if his last name is Iggenschloffer, do you think he's getting this deal?
Maybe one with Wiener Schnitzel.
So Arch Manning has himself a deal with Red Bull, an NIL deal. And look, we all know Arch Manning's starting quarterback at Texas next year. Quinn Ewers obviously announced for the NFL draft.
Do you think he was making more than Ewers this year?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he is.
I think
he
so.
was.
I think so.
Because what's his last name again?
Manning.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's why. There's no doubt. Again, if his name is Iggenschloffer, no.
Just having the name, again, you have not proven anything.
Zero.
You just have the legacy of being a Manning. Your uncles are two of the greatest quarterbacks the NFL has ever seen. Your grandfather was a phenomenal quarterback in college and hung around the NFL for a long time. Your family is a pedigree of quarterbacks, minus your dad, who may have actually been the best of the bunch as a wide receiver, but you just have that legacy tied to your name. You don't have to prove anything, and they're just throwing the money at you.
Right. They're just, it's unreal. It's like, to be fair, when Ewers, people forget this, obviously, when he first came out of high school, he went to Texas, was going to go to Texas, then went to Ohio State, got an NIL deal at Ohio State, and then transferred back to Texas.
Yep.
And Ewers, that was I don't know if groundbreaking is the right word, but that was a rare deal to a quarterback who had never taken a snap. And the reason he went to Ohio State was the NIL deal.
Yeah. Now that's just, the norm. Oh, high school kid has to take a snap, $8 million.
Exactly. And what I will say this, though. As much as and we talked about this a few minutes ago, as much as I truly believe Arch Manning has got the goods to be an excellent quarterback, we don't know. We got no clue. We got no idea what Arch Manning's going to end up being. It might be the more he plays, teams get film, they start game planning against him, and he has no plan B.
Yep.
Or we find out all the warts in that game that can't be fixed. We don't know anything. We know in the bits and pieces we saw of him, we think he's going to be, once he's a starter and gets all the starter reps, he's going to be a hell of a player, we think.
Let's not forget, in the Georgia game, when they played in the regular season, Ewers was scuffling. Sark threw his hands up and said, "Fine, Arch, get out there." Arch didn't play any better. And again, that's against a high-level defense in Georgia. That is a really good litmus test for how you've managed in the SEC, because Texas' schedule was a lot lighter. So, at least in that instance, he wasn't better than yours. So we'll see as he now gets the full reins, gets taking all the reps with the ones and all that kind of stuff, and obviously develops for another offseason where he's going to be. I think they go to Ohio State this year. They play Ohio State, I believe.
Yeah.
That might be the season opener. And again, we know they're going to play the same exact teams in conference, which means that there is a trip to Georgia in there as well. So we'll see. It's not going to be easy by any means.
And the other part about it, in that game, Sark brought in, Manning to provide a spark. And if Manning would have played well, guess who's not coming back in the game?
Oh, yeah. If Manning leads them down the field and they score a touchdown on their first drive with him, Ewers isn't seeing the field again.
No, he's not. Not at all.
And may not see it again for the rest of the season.
You think about that. And that's a heck of a point. Let's just say, and that game's at Ohio State.
Okay.
Let's just say for fun that Arch Manning did lead the team down the field. Let's say he led the team on a fabulous come-from-behind victory over Georgia.
Or even not like a 3-point loss. He's got him there at the end in the game compared to what Ewers was doing in the first half. Either way.
There could be an argument, does Arch Manning keep the gig?
Probably. Because the competition they played down the stretch, I don't think he would have done any worse than Ewers, probably.
Well, let's be honest here. Quinn Ewers, except for bits and spurts, was a very, even though people talk about his stats or whatever, he's this place in Texas history, that place. But if you watch Texas games, there were times Quinn Ewers was making decisions and making throws that was hindering the Texas offense. Remember, they got it going later in the year because the run game started cooking.
Yep.
But if you watched Ewers, or if you look at Ewers' stats, throwing the ball down the field, very inconsistent. And Arch Manning, in his smaller sample size, threw it much better down the field than Quinn Ewers.
Also has the ability to run a lot more.
And so, I mean, you could make the case that if Arch Manning does get it going against Georgia and that offense starts popping, win or lose, you might see Arch Manning for the rest of the year. It might have happened because, again, Sark's job is to win games and to put Texas in the best position to be successful. So I don't know. It's a very interesting question that we never got to answer.
Yeah, it is. And hey, we're going to learn this year.
Yeah, because it's his guy. He gets the keys. And does he have the most expectation of any player in college football for next season?
I was just about to ask, is he going to be talked about more than any other play going into the season? I would say yes to both.
No one spotlight is going to shine brighter and going to burn hotter than the one on Arch Manning at Texas.
And look, even if his name was Arch Smith, right, taking over at Texas as the starting quarterback for a team that's been to the semifinals the back-to-back years, that's already a big stage. When you add in your last name of being Manning, that puts the expectations even higher.
Absolutely. All right, football in the 1 o'clock hour. Sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Coaching changes in the NFL. There's one gig left. But right now, let's look at the coaches that have been hired. Who do we like the best? Who do we like the least? The least is easy. Not going to shock a whole lot of people. We'll get into that next. Halftime show live from Pro Swing Golf on Forest Drive in Columbia. We are hanging here up until 6 tonight. We'll be back tomorrow as well from 6 to 6 right here on the game. Oh, what we're talking about is a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Tyler Heads here, Terry Ford. Josh just took off and left.
Yeah, he's finally got to go do some work now that it's 1:30 in the afternoon.
He's been. You know, it's funny. You remember the first time we did the pro swing stuff in Chapin?
Yep.
Josh was like sweaty. He had to change his clothes.
Oh, yeah.
He was like covered in sweat.
Well, the last time we were here, he was sweating up a storm.
Sweaty Josh.
He said today that's why he wore the shorts and the hat
So
and everything.
funny.
Didn't drink hot coffee this morning.
So
you know,
funny.
You don't want to be the guy in the office that sweats
No.
because you smell.
Mhm. Yep.
And everybody knows it.
Oh yeah. Hey, Jay jokes about sweat, and he could sweat in a freezer. He's not lying.
Yeah,
Jay sweats. It's just like wow.
Jay sweats a lot.
Yeah. And he's not kidding. I remember we did a live show at South Carolina at the job fair day for media.
Yep.
And we came walking. We walked from South Carolina there to the studios on Gervais. It was a 5-minute walk. You thought Jay ran a marathon.
I believe it.
Just walking from there. I looked at him like, oh my God, man, you do sweat.
Yeah.
He's like, I told you. I'm like, this is incredible. I've never seen a human being sweat like this. So anyway, Josh is out of here, but we're going to be hanging around till 3. Then Jay and Elijah, the post-game show from 3 to 6 here at Pro Swing as we are rolling through our inaugural Pro Swing.
Get it right.
107.5 The Game Winter Golf Classic till 8 p.m. today. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday as well. You just, again, we talk about you still spots left to jump in and play. $1,000 for first place, $750 second, $500 for third. Also, if you register to play, you are eligible to possibly win Gamecock baseball season tickets. 803-528-1617. Register, set yourself up with a tee time, and come on in. If you're by yourself, take you about an hour to play 9. You and a bud, take you about 2 hours.
Extended lunch break. Get off work early on Friday.
Grab
Come in
some
on Saturday.
bonefish. We got
whatever. The bonefish is incredible.
It's stupid.
I mean, it's great. It's never bad.
No.
I think you could put Bang Bang sauce on a shoe and it would taste good.
You know what? We're gonna do that and we're gonna videotape you eating a shoe with Bang Bangs.
How much you get payment for that?
All right, so we yap football all the time in the 1 o'clock hour here in Atlantic, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. All right, we still have one last team to make their hire. Most likely will be Kellen Moore as the head coach of the New Orleans Saints.
Though, with the way things have gone in this hiring cycle, you never know.
Well, the Saints themselves, they've got, I mean, there was like 70 guys originally involved in this thing. I forget how many they've interviewed. Let's be honest here. If you look at these gigs, all right, Bears, Raiders, Patriots, Jets, Jacksonville, Dallas, and New Orleans. Look, all these have their own dysfunctions in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yep.
Every one of these, this is the interesting part of this. This isn't like, you know, a franchise like Green Bay moving on from Mike McCarthy and hiring Matt LaFleur.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't like a stable franchise who is just moving on to their next coach for whatever reason. These are dysfunctional franchises who are hiring coaches, pretty much all of them. The Dallas Cowboys, we talk about it all the time. Dysfunction. Jacksonville Jaguars, dysfunction. New York Jets,
dysfunction. Tons of dysfunction.
It's so bad. The owner's doing interviews during the introduction of the new head coach saying, you know, I've got to change I got to change my ways.
Yep.
I wish someone would have said, Woody, what do you have to change? What have you been doing that's so bad? Well, I got to quit letting my kids tell me Madden ratings on players so I know who to keep or not. And I can't let my kids come in the locker room talking junk to the players. Just a couple of those things would help. Woody. Allegedly, New England right now is maybe not as dysfunctional as the rest of them. But look, New England, Gerard Mayo was your coach in waiting.
Yep.
You were holding on to Gerard Mayo, and he was going to be your guy. He's your dude. You gave him 1 year, and you ran him off.
Yeah, and how do the players feel about that?
Uh-huh.
Players probably like Gerard because he's already on the staff anyway.
And ready, you have one of the worst rosters in football.
Yeah, so, now you do have the ability to improve that roster with your cap space and your draft position, which could have been better if they had not won that last game, but still, you're in a good spot to add talent and, you know, get things better quicker than some of these other organizations.
Now, the Raiders obviously are a massive pile of dysfunction under their owner, Lloyd Christmas.
And look, I like the Pete Carroll hire from the standpoint of who he is as a coach, culture guy, can build a foundation. I don't know how long he's going to be around. I know it's a 3-year deal with the 4th-year option, but God, he's going to be 74. Like,
even though he acts like he's 44.
For how dysfunctional that organization is, this isn't a 2-year turnaround. This is going to take time to build. Is he going to be there for that? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, his age. Look, this isn't ageism. What I'm saying is this: Pete Carroll at 73 in the what feels like work that has to be done in Vegas. Is Pete going to be around for that second contract? Is a legit point.
Yeah.
And the Bears. Look, the Raiders and the Bears are interesting. They're both dysfunctional franchises. The Raiders, again, have Mark Davis, who has his bowl haircut and who I do believe – I'm trying to figure out who dresses him because obviously he can't be dressing himself.
Well, he asked the waitress at P.F. Chang's if that looks good, and she wants a good tip. So she says, yes, sir, you look great.
I mean, anyway, he's a disaster. Everything around him swirls like a disaster. The Bears are different. The Bears are this iconic heritage franchise that's been around from the beginning, founded by George Halas. But you know what they are? They're dysfunction in nice clothes.
Sure.
And nice haircuts.
Yeah.
And tailored suits. They're dysfunctional.
Yeah, what? Since that Super Bowl, playoff appearance? Yeah.
They got the NFC Championship game with Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
And that's really what they are. So all of these teams are dysfunctional in some way, shape, or form. I'm going to say this. I think the Pete Carroll hire is the best hire of the bunch because of who he is and what he brings. Pete is going to, and even if he's only a short timer, and I think Tom Brady, and look, I don't know what kind of guy Tom Brady is going to be running a football team. Is he going to be John Elway? I don't know. John Elway, ironically, the biggest problem with John Elway, he couldn't get the quarterback right.
Yep.
What position did John Elway play?
Quarterback.
Yeah. I don't know what kind of leader of a franchise Tom Brady would be, but he can't be any worse than Mark Davis, right? Right?
Yeah, theoretically, and somebody that I don't know, again, has a deeper understanding of what actually goes on a football field to be a better set of eyes on things. Couldn't hurt. Because again, Al Davis was a football coach. Yes. Al Davis understood. Mark Davis has not done any of those things.
Mark Davis can't spell football. I guarantee you. If you gave him the foot.
Well, he pays someone to spell it for him.
So I think Pete Carroll's the best hire just for one reason. He can put the right culture in place for this dumpster fire that has been the Raiders.
Yep.
And if nothing else, maybe in the 3 years Carroll's there, they can get this thing on the right road. Maybe Tom Brady, can use some good common sense as a guy that's leading a franchise. And maybe just maybe in that 3 years, the Raiders can, if nothing else, get themselves on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
I love Pete Carroll. I like Mike Vrabel. Look, Vrabel's never been to a Super Bowl. He's never won a Super Bowl. Yes, and I've said this about Mike Vrabel to you many times. If I'm interviewing Mike Vrabel, my first question is, Mike, tell me about grooming a young quarterback. What are you going to do? Who are you going to hire? How's it going to go? Look, Josh McDaniels is a terrible head coach. But let's be honest. Mac Jones' rookie year was far and away Mac Jones' best year as a quarterback. Who was his offensive coordinator / quarterback whisperer?
Josh McDaniels, because he's really good at doing that.
And then you make him a head coach. He's really bad at that.
Which I'm sure somebody's going to give him another shot at some point.
Sure, why not? So I like the Vrabel hire. If Vrabel gets out of the way and lets Josh McDaniels work with young Mr. Drake May.
Yep.
Because I think Drake May's got a lot of potential. But that's you know why I like those two so much? Because I know that they are culture setters and leaders. And they've won at various degrees. They've had various degrees of success.
They're proving it.
And I think Vrabel is the best thing for New England. He understands the room, the culture, everything about those folks. And I just think Carroll has that infectious energy that's going to set the table, if nothing else, for hopefully success later.
Yep.
Everybody loves the Ben Johnson hire. You know what? If I'm hiring Ben Johnson as an offensive coordinator, I love the hire. I just don't know what he's going to be as a head coach.
No.
He might be great. He might be the next Sean McVay. He could be the next Matt Nagy. I don't know what he's going to be.
And that's the thing. Anytime you're hiring a coordinator who's never been a head coach before, what do you say the success rate is? Like 60-40, 50-50, somewhere around there? You just don't know until they get in there and do the job. Because we've seen phenomenal coordinators be terrible head coaches and all that. So you got to wait and see. Again, he's got pieces that he can work with that tells me he can be successful, but we'll see.
And obviously, all of our least favorite hires, Brian Schottenheimer in Dallas. It's ugh. But Cam Newton thinks it's just a tank.
Yeah. Oh, it's a ploy.
It sure it is. We're live at Pro Swing up until 6 o'clock. It's a halftime show. We'll get our Firehouse Sub text of the hour next, right here on the game. Just chilling here at Pro Swing, our Winter Golf Classic. Halftime show with Terry Ford and Tyler Head as we kick it till 3. Then Jay and Elijah will take over post-game show. Firehouse sub text to the hour at 803-404-6100. What do you got, man?
Beth from Lamar, in reference to TJ Sanders blowing up the LSU guard yesterday, said maybe Sanders wanted to pay back the LSU player that was given an opportunity without the risk of a penalty flag. He put him on his butt. I'll say that much.
He won that one, didn't he? He won that drill.
Yes, he did. There was the dude from Marshall that just blew up that tackle. That I think he raised some eyebrows.
Do you think my man celebrated after that? Like he had just scored a touchdown on a fumble recovery or something.
Like it's one thing to do that in a game, but when you're 5 feet away from a scout from every team, that's got to feel great.
And then the flip side is when you're the offensive lineman.
Oh, yeah. It's like, well, I just went from the second round to the fifth round.
That's like the NFL version of being posterized, isn't it?
Do you immediately get up and start making excuses?
You start
oh man, my cleats.
Grab your hammy.
Yeah, God, these are my cleats. What's going on here? The ground is wet. I don't know.
You come up with something because you know what? That was bad.
Well, and then the rest of the scouts can be like, "What happened on that drill the other day?"
Well, I didn't have I typically wear another type of cup. And I had to switch that up, and I was off balance. And you got to come up with something, right?
Yeah. Oh, we were going on hut. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought hut. Drills aren't my thing. I'm better as a game.
Yeah,
player.
I watch my tape. I'm better in the game. Okay.
Much better game. But that never happened to me in a game. Turn on my film, dude.
How do you feel about practice squad?
We're talking about practice. All right, so we appreciate the text at 803-404-6100 here on the halftime show. As we take it back to South Carolina football wise, and we're that little lull where you're waiting for spring practice to start. You had Case and Henry on today on the Gamecock Club Hour, and I thought it was interesting how he was going through his schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, getting up at 6:15. Why? What's wrong with you? And he's like, I remember he said, he goes, if I go to bed at the right time, 6:15 ain't no big deal.
Sure.
6:15 is always a big deal.
Well, yeah, I guess if you can get into bed by 10, get your 8 hours in. But he's also a student, and being in college, I know you can never get anything done at a reasonable time.
And he's got he's putting the work in, even though they're not playing. It's like a dead period. He's lifting, he's working out. He's doing a lot of things to help make him a better football player and get him ready for spring. So there's not like an off season. Like they'll take time off.
Sure, no.
But they have a workout program they got to do in the off season.
Yeah, the strength and conditioning staff's got them, in the gym through January, February, March, and getting them ready, getting them stronger, and all that kind of stuff. And again, you can go out and do individual stuff, with your teammates. It's not organized team stuff necessarily, but Casey and Henry told Wes that I'm focusing on my mechanics, my hands, my feet, those kind of things. Because let's be honest, when you talk about Case Henry, he did not have a great season last year. Neither did Josiah Thompson in their first year as starters at those respective tackle spots. They've got a lot of work on this spring, and the fine-tuning mechanics of playing those tackle spots, which is a very hard position to play, is going to be paramount this year.
Yeah, you need Thompson and Henry to step their game up
if they are going to be your tackles.
Right, and
we'll see.
And Thompson. Yeah, we knew he was going to struggle.
Sure.
No one was surprised. A freshman left tackle is going to struggle.
Well, remember he got made that was the second team freshman All-American left tackle, and we're like, that's kind of weird. Well, I can't imagine there's a whole lot of freshman left tackles out there. Yeah. It's just not many of them.
Especially in the SEC. You want to talk about throwing fresh meat to wolves.
Yeah.
18-year-old freshman right out of high school, all of a sudden is your starting left tackle. And Thompson struggled both, pass protection in the run game. He had a tough go.
By the way, go block this edge guy that's 24 and runs a 4.3 40.
But hey, you see that guy right there with the 0.5% body fat, who's got like ripped ab muscles up to his face?
Yeah, stop him.
His name's James Pierce.
Yeah, he's got a family and drives a minivan. Yeah, try and stop him.
He's a grown man, and you're right now you're using Clearasil.
Yeah,
and it just was tough. And Josiah Thompson, I think, will bounce back and have a much better sophomore year. Now he's gotten one season under his belt. He's got a full year in the weight room, the nutrition table. He's going to come back, I believe, in his sophomore year. I think he'll be a much better player. To what degree does that make him? Look, if he can just be solid and hold his own this year, that's a heck of an improvement from his freshman year.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, if you can cut your numbers in half with pressures and sacks. Again, still room for improvement, but that'd be better.
Well, the other side of that is Case and Henry. We expected more from Case and Henry than Josiah Thompson, and Henry played well in the bowl game, and I believe graded out solid against Clemson. But for the most part, Henry struggled at times worse than Josiah Thompson.
Yep.
And that we didn't see coming.
Because he'd been on campus for several years. Now he'd been injured.
Right. I mean, he hadn't been a starter. He had started one more game than Thompson, but he'd been in the program for multiple years. His third year, I believe, in the program.
Yep.
And we just thought because he had been around much longer that he was going to be a better player, and that just didn't turn out to be true. So that both tackles, and you're right, we'll see if somebody can beat out a Case and Henry. I think it's going to take a lot to unseat Josiah Thompson because of how much they love his upside.
Yep.
But they do, they got to get better. There's no doubt about it. And there's competition behind them. All right, what's trending at 2 coming next on the game? Trending at 2 is sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions here on the game. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We're just hanging as our first inaugural. Don't tell Jeannie.
Get it right.
Jeannie. Inaugural.
Well, Lee's going to beat you up now.
Yeah, I mean, she would probably smack me around too.
Yep, she's trained by Jeannie, so
Jeannie trained her to kill.
that's right.
Here are the 7 pressure points that kill any sports talk show. All right, so our inaugural Pro Swing 107.5 The Game Winter Golf Classic. Again, you can still jump in. We have some spots available for you. Just bring up Pro Swing 803-528-1617, and you can get in $1,000 for first place, $750 for second, $500 for third. All right, what's trending at 2 is Dawn Staley was on Carolina Calls last night, along with Brad Muller at 6 o'clock here on the game in Columbia and our affiliate in Myrtle Beach, 100.3 The Game. Talking about Ashlyn Watkins, and we're going to go to cut 2 first, Ed Bird. Dawn was asked about Ashlyn Watkins, of course, tore ACL out for the year.
Yep.
Dawn was asked about Watkins' rehab. Hit cut 2, Ed.
Yeah, they just flew right into it. Well, the plane is descending too. So you see that like explosion. It's wild. That's right.
So Watkins with the ACL tear, obviously she's rehabbing and very vocal, and she's got a voice with the team, even though she's not playing at this point.
Yeah.
Here's another. Let's get to this cut. Ed, cut 5. Another part of this. Can Ashlyn Watkins get a medical red shirt? Remember, she missed the first few games, and she was suspended early.
Yeah, she had the legal matters going on.
So, is she in line to possibly get a medical red shirt? Hit cut 5 for us, Ed.
Well, I mean, that is above my pay grade. Usually when you get a medical red shirt or trying to get your year back, you have to play 10% of the schedule. If you play more than 10%, you gotta fight it. You gotta try to get a waiver. So we'll do what we need to do to see if we can get that year back. Regardless, they don't decide on that until you've exhausted your eligibility.
Okay.
Obviously, you'd love to have Ashlyn Watkins back for another year, which she brings you defensively, athletically.
She's phenomenal.
Yep, leadership-wise, it would be great to be able to get that accomplished. So we'll see what can happen with that. But right now, with Fagans and Kitts and Edwards, and they have all stepped up in different ways to help fill out the void. And really, with Watkins, we say it all the time. Defensively is where you really lose a lot with Watkins being out.
Yeah.
But Fagan has, every game she's blocking shots and defending the paint.
And I think, she did miss the beginning part of the season because of the legal matters going on. So this is a team that had to figure out how to play without her to start the year. It was great when you got her back, and she was obviously going out there and doing Ashlyn Watkins things in the games that she played. And then you lose her again. It's like, okay, well, let's just go back to what we're doing. And again, you've seen Sanaya Fagan and girls like that step up and kind of help fill that void. Where again, and I say this a lot, it wasn't going to be one of them that just suddenly becomes Ashlyn Watkins. Like, no, they're all going to play their part, all going to play a role in it. And I think they've done a good job, because if you weren't looking at the box score and you weren't watching the game, say, oh, nothing's really changed. They're playing good, if not better, without her.
And the thing offensively, what it's done, because again, this is not a knock on Ashlyn Watkins, but Joyce Edwards is more skilled of an offensive player than Watkins.
Yep.
And what Joyce Edwards can't bring you defensively that Watkins can, or athletically for that matter, Edwards brings more when it comes to putting the ball in the basket. Her offensive skill set is just, better than Watkins.
Right.
So you kind of helped yourself offensively. And with Fagan, what she's done defensively, she might not be Watkins defensively, but she's done a really nice job stepping in. And and Chloe Kitts is a very underrated one of the crew. Yeah, there are games where Chloe Kitts gets out physical, and those are games where you see her play less minutes just because of the matchup. But Chloe Kitts, she has posted her share of double doubles this year.
Yep, she absolutely has, and she's become that presence presence down low near the basket that you can rely on offensively and defensively. And again, this is a team that, lacks a superstar, right? We've seen in years past the Aaliyah Bostons, the Asia Wilsons kind of be head and shoulders above everybody else on an already talented team. You don't have that right now. You're some of your parts, and I think Dawn Staley's perfectly fine with that, and everybody understands their role, and nobody seems to be selfish, and that's why they're successful.
All right, and we'll get to this cut, Ed Burr. Let's go to cut 6 as we're speaking of Joyce Edwards. And Lamont said this, and I thought this was interesting. When Lamont said that these guys got to get in the gym by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
He said in the post game after the loss to Georgia, he goes, these guys got to get in the gym by themselves and get with their basketball god. Basically, get in the gym when no one's around and no one's looking, and do the extra time, put the extra work in.
You got to agree, figure it out yourself.
Yeah, because at some point, Lamont's saying coaching can only take you so far. At some point, it's got to be also the responsibility of you to make you better.
Right.
Lock yourself in the gym, put in a cot and a porta potty, and just practice. Right. Just practice. You got the number. Have your phone. You can hit Uber Eats every now and then, but just practice and work on your game. That's the reality of where you're at. And really, I always thought this: when you are on that level of basketball, I just think. And again, this is me not playing high-level Division I basketball. I would want to maximize that as much as I could. So I'm not going to say I'm not going to go out and have fun. I'm not going to be, giving co-eds my number. I'm not, I'm still going to enjoy my life on campus, but I'm also going to lock my butt in the gym and work on my game outside of practice because I want to be the best player I can be. Since I've been given this wonderful opportunity to play at this level, I want to maximize my abilities.
You got to have the want to, though. You can't.
Got to have the want to.
Again, it's one thing for Coach Paris to say it, and we say it all the time. The press conferences are speaking to the players more than it is speaking to us as media, and that's him sending a message. But again, he's not going to grab you by the hand and drag you into the gym in the off hours. You have to go there and have the incentive to do it yourself. And I'm sure plenty of these guys do it. But again, it all has to do with who you are as a person, as an athlete, if you're willing to go to those links to be better.
And especially when you're 0 for the SEC, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where you're really like, what more work can I do to make myself a better player, to put myself in that position to when there is like 26 seconds left in the game and the rock lands in my hands, I can make better decisions and better plays.
Right.
So, but I'm bringing that up because here's Dawn talking about Joyce Edwards, the freshman leading scorer on the team, getting everything she puts in, talking about basically the work that Joyce Edwards puts in. Hit cut 6 there, Ed Bird.
I mean, Joyce has been great. I mean, Joyce, she's getting everything that she puts into the game. She's got great mental strength. Nothing bothers her. Well, actually, if she misses a few shots in practice, you can see her just kind of looking at the ball, looking at this situation, but it's only because she put in the work. Like, it surprises her when she doesn't make shots because she puts in so much work. She watches, everything she does. And I know she has a great time on TikTok, her and Adele and Miriam, Breezy, they're probably on live right now, like on TikTok. But she finds a way, like she compartmentalizes, with the best of them, being so young. Like she's in an honors college, like the #1 honors college in the country. Joyce has the rigorous academic schedule. She's in the gym all the time, before practice, after practice. And then she's in there with her dad and mom rebounding for her later on at night. And she comes in, she practices at a really high level. So the things that you're seeing her do now are movements of familiarizing herself with this level of play. And it's a cycle. Like, you have to see all the newness that this level brings from a defensive standpoint and offensive standpoint and make adjustments. She's the one that can make adjustments because she's watching. She watches our opponents. She watches herself. She understands, and she's mentally tough. That's probably the best thing I like about Joyce. I know she makes a lot of baskets for us. She gets rebounds and she talks out there on the floor, but she doesn't get too high with the highs or too low with the lows. She maintains a pace in which she creates options for us. So she's not just limited to doing one thing.
I mean, there you hear about sounds like a player who is probably from the neck up beyond her years.
Yeah.
Works real hard.
Well, it's because of the name. She's got to be older.
Is that, yeah, Joyce
She's named
Edwards?
Joyce.
Yeah.
That automatically makes you more experienced and wiser than the Haleys and the Jessicas.
I'm going by your thought there. Then she should walk in wearing a pantsuit
Sure.
every day to
Why not?
practice.
She might. Team president.
Oh man! All right, I'm trying to think of anybody else I know, like under the age of 60, who's named Joyce.
I have a great aunt named Joyce.
There you go.
That's
It's a
what I
great
think
aunt.
of. Yeah. So, but
There's no Joyces in my family.
I have not run into it to me in my years through high school and college.
kinda
I'll
funny.
say that much.
Ready? You got Joyce on the women's basketball team. You got a Fred.
Yeah. Well, you got Joyce and a Miriam.
Yeah, Miriam. Now, I tell you,
Miriam.
honestly, I forgot
is
about that.
That's a name that hasn't been used too much
No,
in
Miriam
recent years.
ooh.
I
mean, in my family, we've got a Beulah and a Myrtle.
those
We
are
don't have any Miriams.
those are some old school names.
Yeah, we don't have any Miriams and Joyces though. But everybody's got a Betty.
Oh yeah.
Every family's got Bettys.
Well, everybody loves Betty White, so you could still run into run into a 14-year-old Betty. That wouldn't be
maybe.
the weirdest thing.
Yeah, and I think
And like names come in cycles, right?
Mhm.
So the names that you think are those names are outdated, they come back.
And what was
They
I
may
saw?
spell them kind of funny, but they come back.
Like last year, what was it? I saw that the most popular boy's name, or 2 years ago, was Liam.
Okay.
10 years ago, who was naming their kid Liam? Now I guess
I guess
a bunch of
I
people are
guess
naming
because
their
of
kids
Liam
Liam.
Hemsworth.
I guess Liam Neeson,
Well,
Liam Hemsworth.
Is Liam Hemsworth still very popular, Lee? Okay, Lee
Of
confirms.
course. As soon as you said Liam Hemsworth, Lee went,
Okay,
very
I'm not
popular.
good with pop culture, so I have to ask.
It's not on ESPN. We don't know anything
Yeah,
about.
so
That's kind of who we
thank
are.
you.
Liam Neeson, you got Liam
Yeah,
Hemsworth.
I didn't think about Liam Neeson. That's a good
Liam
one
Neeson,
too.
he has a special set of skills if you watch
He does.
10 movies.
And they've made 12 of them at this point.
And everybody in his family
They
dies.
actually filmed one of those at my high school, believe it or not.
Really?
The third one.
Did he beat up any of your classmates?
No, but they were there for some reason. That was the one where I think his daughter got taken for like the 5th time or something like that.
Why do you want to be in Liam Neeson's family? Because you kidnapped.
I've seen the first one.
Everybody gets. Yeah, the first one was good.
I seen the first one. I'm like, okay, I think I get the gist of the entire series now.
I know. All right, so it is the names. The names do. It is a cycle.
Yeah.
So basically, you're telling me we're seeing an uptick in Joyce's and Miriam's and Fred's.
Yes. And Wendell's. Got a Wendell as well.
And Wendell's. All right, what's trading at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Well, you